Welcome. My name is Daniel. I am the creator of Heart in the Fight and your host for today. Before we jump into the show, I want to remind you, if you haven't already, like this video, share this video, and follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and certainly subscribe to the YouTube channel to get access to future content. I have a special show for you. Yes, you, today. We have the legend, one of the forefathers and pioneers of what is now called the sport of mixed martial arts. He is a multiple-time Tough Man competition winner. He was the first King of Pancrase. He also was the UFC and WWF champion. He is the Hall of Famer. He's your favorite fighter's favorite fighter and has the most famous moniker in fighting history as the world's most dangerous man. I'm talking no other than Ken Shamrock. Alongside him, I also invited the founder and owner of the nation's largest backyard fight club in the nation, with 2 million YouTube subscribers, over 50,000 Facebook members across multiple branches in the US. There are major publications and documentaries made about him and his fight club, Streetbeefs. Joining Ken Shamrock is Scarface. Welcome to Heart in the Fight. Enjoy the show. Yeah, so before we start, I just want to take some time to kind of express how cool this moment is for me. I remember as a young kid, my favorite uncle, his name was also Ken, and he was always practicing all kinds of martial arts in the backyard. I didn't know what it was back then, but it was normal to see him hitting a punching bag and shadow boxing and kicking. And one day, he invites me and my brother Chris into his man cave, which was like a back house. And he sits us down, he pops in his VHS tape. Yeah, I know a lot of you new viewers and you Generation Z don't know what a VHS tape. This is before DVDs, right? And so this led to the DVDs.
I've been going through all of my VHS, putting all my history on digital. So yeah, here it is, folks.
Yeah. So there you go, right? And so he popped in that VHS tape and he had us watch UFC 3. And as each fighter was coming up, he would narrate it and give us context of what we were watching. And I remember vividly when your fight came up, he said, "That man right there is a bad man. He is the baddest man on the earth." And after that, I was hooked. So I want to thank my Uncle Ken for introducing me to mixed martial arts through watching you fight. And so if my uncle is here, if he's watching, I certainly, it kind of brings everything back in full circle. So Ken, if you're watching, we did it, Uncle. We have the world's most dangerous man on the show. So thanks for joining us. And, you have a storied career. It will take us more than this show to fully capture it all. And so instead of trying to make that effort within the time frame that we have, I wanted to focus our conversation around the mentality of a fighter. When you ask the most top athletes in the world to name an attribute that they have that has ushered their success, most of them would say that it was their mindset. On the same token, if you were to ask any person who's ever overcome any kind of severe depression, drug addiction, or poverty, or any kind of obstacle in their life, they too would attribute that to a shift in their mind. So our show normally centers around fighting, but not just in the physical form, but the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual fights that we all encounter to better our lives. And so if anyone has followed you on Twitter, you give your audience kind of a glimpse of your mindset that I would love to explore on the show. And I have formed some questions regarding that topic. So on Twitter, you stated the following: "Your heart and soul will always be a fighter. I'm not comfortable with saying I'm done. I quit. I give up. That's who I am, and that's the way I will always be, from the day I was born to the day I die." So it is clear that your mindset paid huge dividends to your success as a Hall of Fame fighter, historical icon. So how does a person or a fighter develop that? Is it something that is ingrained as a child, or is it cultivated through a series of experiences and practices?
Well, if we're talking about when I first started in this world of feeling important because let's say when you're asking this fighter at a certain point in time in his life, what is the ideal or thought process? You know, they're going to tell you it's mindset. You know, are you still there?
Yes, you're still here.
Sorry. Because they're in a different place now that they've gotten there, right? So, like, if you look at way back when you know I'm going through these group homes and all these little things, and I end up at the Shamrock Boys home, the only thing I knew was that okay, this dude gets in my face, it's me or him, and it's going to be me, no matter how I get there, right? There's no rules. I'm going to be the winner, and so that's a mindset, right? But that's a mindset coming from no rules, no structure, you know, living, you know, in a world that doesn't exist to mainstream. But then once somebody gets a hold of you, like Bob Shamrock, who says, hold up, you know, you can't break rules. You can't go out and do these things because you're going to go nowhere with that mindset. So let me help you put your mindset with the violence and destruction in your mind and your heart. Let's put that into something constructive. Let's put that into football and wrestling and let's take that anger and just let it roll into sports. And then being taught through sports that as long as I stay within those boundaries of the sport, I could put my toe over every now and then. We get flagged a little bit here and there, but just as long as that I constantly keep coming back and playing within those rules, I'm relevant. Like, I'm important now. Before that, I was a punk kid that somebody was going to shoot or put away for life because of what I was doing. But my same violence and my same expression that I was doing on the street and that I was doing in the group home and all these other places, and now is put on a football field. And now all of a sudden, I can do all those things within these rules. Even on a wrestling mat, I can cross-face a guy and bloody his nose. I'm not going to go to jail for that. I'm going to win. And so all of a sudden now that mindset now becomes I'm relevant. Like now all of a sudden I take these things that were at one time a bad thing and then put it within some circumstance of this umbrella of sports and then stay within the rules of those sports. Now all of a sudden I'm relevant. I'm important. And so that mindset is one that you have to be educated and taught. Once you learn that mindset, you're like, wow, okay, I could be somebody. I'm important now. And so you start moving down that road and you start becoming successful, right? Then all of a sudden your mindset now has to change again because now everything is easy. You're getting women, drugs, you name it. You get free food. I mean, everywhere, into clubs for free, VIP free, women hanging on, all these. So now your mindset is getting all combobulated because you're thinking, okay, this is within the rules, right? Well, yeah, but it's taken away from what you do best, right? And that is going out there and destroying people and being destructive. So now somebody has to come in and say, hey, brother, this is all fine and stuff, but there's a time and place for that. It can't be 24/7. So then you have to be restructured and teach your mind how to actually be disciplined and become a pro. Now you've got to become a pro fighter. And you have to educate yourself that there's times and places for everything. But your first priority is training and achieving the ultimate in whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I love that answer. Right, that you have to be educated. There has to be a process for you to develop your mind. And so, Scarface, I know that you've also had a number of challenges yourself, right? Getting to the point where you're at and being really successful. How did that play out for you?
Well, I can relate to so much of what Ken said. I also grew up in group homes, lockup, juvenile lockups, and did a lot of bad stuff. And when he talks about putting that energy inside a confine of rules and it suddenly being a good thing, I can relate so much. And, that kind of carries over to Streetbeefs. And what Ken just talked about is what we're asking people to do with Streetbeefs. It's almost taking people that are just like Ken was when he was young and saying, don't The reason why I think Street Beefs is important, and be clear, this show isn't about Street Beefs, but it's about what Ken's talking about. You know, with amateur fighting and wrestling, etc., there's a process to go through. With Street Beefs, we let people come. All they got to do is send us a message, and they can bring their energy and their aggression directly to the yard. And it gives them a quick outlet under the confine of rules. So they're not going to kill nobody. We're not going to let them kill nobody. But they can get their anger out. And I think it's a really good thing for young men who are going through it to learn to focus it. But I myself, I boxed in teen boxing, and it was a very important thing for me. It was. If I didn't have that outlet, I don't know where I would have been in life. Well, I still went to lockup, but I think it would have been a lot worse. So, you know, I guess probably the long way of saying I can relate to what he's talking about. I agree with him. You know, you need an outlet when you're going through those types of situations. And I think fighting and just combat sports in general gives you that.
Well, and just to maybe even enlighten some of the people out there that are listening, my first experience with controlled fighting was when I went to Bob Shamrock's group home. We had this thing out back that was dug out like a pool, and there was 18 boys in this home, and there was no other group home that would allow this to happen except for at my dad's house, which wasn't my dad then. And what would happen if there was two guys, teenage boys, that had a beef with one another, that he would put the gloves on, he'd put them out there in the pit and say, go for it. And you could go on the ground and hit them. Wasn't just boxing, but of course he put the gloves on so you can't grab hair or, you know, poke anybody in the eye or fish hook them. But he put gloves on them. And this is back in 1978, 78, 79, and 80, 81, right? This is when I was a 13-year-old kid in a group home, 13, 14, and 15 years old. He'd send us out back. He'd serve popcorn, Coke, and punch. And he'd invite people from town to come out and watch these two guys fight. And these guys, and these are tough guys coming from Napa, California, and in the Bay Area. Most of them were from the Bay Area. And they would come in there and they would be, you know, part of this gang or part of that gang. And the way he would diffuse it really quick is he'd say, oh, so you guys are real badasses, huh? He says, well, if you think you're that, let's put the gloves on and you guys go ahead. Let's see which one is. And of course, in front of everybody, nobody's going to say, well, I'm not going to fight him like that. They're like, yeah, let's do it. Because they don't realize what they're getting into until they put the gloves on and they get into the first round and they're going, right? So That's what broke these kids, because once you brought into that pit and you put the gloves on them, what are you going to do to them, right? I mean, it's better than having them go out behind the barn and start bashing each other with wood, knives, and whatever else they could find. So he put them in the pit and he served all the guys who would stand around and watch and go at each other. And after it was over, and I'm not saying all the time, but I'm saying 98% of the time after it was over, they hugged each other, literally hugged each other after they fought each other, because it was it's the same thing in the wild, right? I mean, one person's going to lead, only one, right? And it's usually the alpha male, right? And that's how it works. In the world that we live in, it's no different other than someone being smarter and doing certain things. But in the world that we live in, I live in, you live in right now, as far as Scarface, as far as what we do, is people have to figure out who they are in that fight. And we offer that opportunity for these people to find out who they are in that fight. And I love the Street Beefs. I'm telling you, man, I love it, because it brings me back to the old days when we used to have those beefs in the house. And every single time, man, after it was over, it was over.
Yep. I love it, man. That I just want to chime in. Like, it sounds to me like his guy was doing Street Beefs 25 years before us. And, you know, the truth is, I've had people ask me if my idea was original. And I told them, I don't feel that it was original. We had an old boxing coach that on Saturdays, if two guys in the house had a beef, he would let us go in the ring and fight each other. Now, we didn't get to do the grappling and stuff like Ken described, but same deal. Afterwards, a hierarchy is established. You develop a respect for somebody, win or lose. When you get in the ring, there's a certain level of respect achieved at that point. So, but old school guys, they've been knew about this. What Streetbeefs is doing is not really unique, except in the sense we put it on camera. So it's cool hearing Ken describe this going on in the 70s.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes. Well, and it's not just the group homes too, because I remember kids that had their own dads would tell them, don't fight at school. Come home and I'll put you guys in the backyard. You can fight in the backyard. Because one, if you did it in school, you were going to get in trouble. But if you both want to fight, come on back in the backyard. And this was in Napa. And so there was a lot of the guys that I hung around with. That's what we did. We would go out and, you get into a thing. We'd fight behind 7-Eleven. That's where I got stabbed at 10 years old. I got stabbed behind 7-Eleven. So there was a lot of that going on. So they were trying in their own way. All these other parents are going, listen, if you're going to fight, just come over to our house. Let you fight in the backyard. Of course, Bob Shamrock made it a big deal. Because we had 18 boys that were in a group home that was their last chance. If we failed that home, we would go to CYA. So it was a last shot. So a lot of hardcore guys there. So it worked because there's nothing more than throwing gloves on someone that thinks they're a badass, and then there's another guy that thinks they're a badass, and you say, hey, here's a set of gloves for each of you. Let's find out. You'll find out really quick if the guy really thinks he's tough.
That's right. He's right, man.
Yeah, it reminds me, I think, the importance of challenging yourself, right? The fight, essentially that's what a fight is, right? It's putting yourself to the test, right? Yeah, making sure, aligning your belief systems, because a lot of us can walk around thinking, oh, we're bad, until we're actually put to the test. Right. And so that's what a fight does, right? It presents this opportunity to really, truly test yourself. And sometimes, the beauty of fighting is that it lets you go to almost the extreme. It lets you go to the boundaries to test it out for a second and then to come back, right? And allow you to kind of analyze, okay, maybe I'm not as bad as I thought I was. Maybe I'm not as invincible as I thought I was. And there should be some respect regarding, right? There should be some respect that I should put. I liken this to like a car crash or an accident that you had, and kind of puts you there where it's like you almost lost your life. And then now you respect driving. Now you respect the rules of the road. Now you respect on how you manage your life. And so very similar in a fight, you put your life to the test, and oftentimes you come back with a lot more respect, a new appreciation of life.
Not to cut you off, there's an old song, I think it's called Attitude Adjustment. It works every time. I mean, honestly, some people just need to find out that they're not as bad as they think they are. There's guys that once they get in that first scrap, they kind of rethink things. And they, and even the guys that do realize they're as bad as they think they are, they realize that there's other badasses out there too. And I think that martial arts in general, it teaches a level of respect, in my opinion. That's why, and Ken, not to bring up old stuff, but that's what irritated me so bad about Tito back when you guys were fighting. I just felt like he wasn't showing respect to the older guard, etc. And I was young at that time, but I still believed in old school respect, etc. And I really liked that Ken was standing up for that and was like, dude, show people respect. And, for me, I think that's a big part of fighting. Sports in general is you play the game, you fight, but afterwards show a level of respect to your foe.
Yeah, that's something I was just trying to get across, was like, say and do whatever you want before the fight, because that's what sells tickets. And people push the line. People get mad at Conor McGregor, and yeah, he went over the line, no question. But don't stop guys from being themselves. Let them go. Before a fight, man, let them rev it up. After the fight, that's where it ends, because if you beat the guy, then you've already done everything that you need to do to him. Right. Now you got to focus on the future. What's next for you? Don't keep going backwards to somebody you already beat.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, I tell our fighters, afterwards. We've had a couple incidents where afterwards fighters want to fight and he's still trying to humiliate his opponent.
Right.
And I'm like, that don't fly here. You know, the bottom line is once you've won, move on. Like Ken said, move on to the next fight. You can hype it in the beginning, but it's all about respect afterwards and you know, trying to go on to the next challenge. I do, man. I think done right, fighting builds great character. It really does.
Yeah, it'd
Absolutely.
be nice to see Trump and Biden go at it.
Hey, I'd pay to see that one, man.
Stop fighting with each other. Let them two fight.
That's right.
And so, speaking about challenge, I know on Twitter you also wrote this, and it really stuck with me when you wrote this on your Twitter, Ken Shamrock, when you say, "The way that I live my life is that I challenge myself to be better." At one point in my life, I lost that challenge. I wanted to just sit and lay on the couch and let life pass me, but that's not me. And so, at what point in your life are you referring to, and how did you overcome that? What did you learn to, or how did you learn to challenge yourself, or what did you learn in challenging yourself to be better?
Yeah, I think it was when my career started to come to an end.
Mm.
I, in my mind, I always thought that I would be involved some way, shape, or form with the UFC or with a promotion fighting or something. And it just didn't work out that way. It just felt like everything was going to end. My injuries were not allowing me to do the things I wanted to do. I was frustrated with myself. I kept trying to push through injuries because I've always been able to overcome them and still figure out a way to win. And I wasn't able to do that. And I just really realized, like, wow, I mean, this isn't going to change. This is going to keep happening. And I know a lot of people were hammering me because they say, man, you fought too long. You lost too many. But what they don't, I guess being in my shoes, being in my spot, I never thought that there wasn't an opportunity for to turn it around. Like, they were never thought that I couldn't get it back. Like, I couldn't put myself back to where I needed to be. I always felt like that in my head. Like, I've got some injuries. I got some issues. I'm going to work through them. I'll figure it out. I'll even change my fighting style. I'll go from a grappler to a striker, knowing that I still can defend on the ground. And so as I'm fighting all these fights and I'm losing a lot of them, I never once in my mind said, I can't do it. I never said that. I always said, I'll find a way. I'll figure it out. I'll do this. I'll do that. I'll bring in different trainers. I'll do that. I found every opportunity I could to turn it around, and it didn't happen. And it took me a lot longer than most people because my mindset was that I won't fail. I'll never fail. But I did. And I had to face that fact. And when I had to face the fact that I wasn't going to be that guy and that it wasn't going to turn around, that's when I got depressed. That's when I stopped doing everything. I figured I would just sit back and enjoy life. You know, I made money. I'm comfortable. I'm just gonna live life. And I didn't work out for almost a year. You know, I laid around and I was depressed. I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, man, I do not like what I see. And I've never been that way. I've never got up to where I felt uncomfortable with myself. You know, even when I was losing and I was training, I was fighting, I didn't get uncomfortable with myself, maybe disappointed at times. But because I had a focus of turning it around, like figuring it out, how can I change this? And so my mind was so preoccupied of making differences and doing things that I ended up finally figuring out, hey, this is not changing. I need to start thinking about other things to do in life. And that's when I got in with stem cells, bioaccelerator, to help my body start feeling better so I could train. I started feeling good, started doing some pro wrestling. Next thing I know, I'm over in Australia doing a thing over there, winning tag team titles. Then I get into Impact and start doing well there and then get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And all of this came off of that spot where I basically said at one time, like, this is not who I want to be. I looked in the mirror and go, man, this is not me. I cannot be that guy that goes, okay, so I'm done being a fighter. I'm done being a wrestler. I'll never say I'm retired. I'll never say I'm done. But at this particular time, there's nothing out there that makes sense for me. What do I do? And so once I figured that out, started getting healthy, I look in the mirror going, hey, I don't care what you do, but don't sit on the couch and be lazy. And so I started training, started working out, getting in shape. A lot of other doors started opening up, started doing a lot of pro wrestling, got inducted in the Hall of Fame. And now I'm sitting on the doorsteps right now. We did one show with Valor BK. We're making a huge announcement in the next 2 to 3 weeks on our next event. We had to hold off because of COVID, but we believe we've got something special. We got something not just special, but I think is going to take over the that mixed martial arts space, because what we have is fast, it's fun, and it's real.
Wow. Congrats on that, Ken.
Thank you.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to grabbing a couple of your guys too, man. We'll get some of them in there bare knuckle.
Hey, brother, listen, any opportunities, never hesitate. With our guys, there's a lot of them that I do feel. I don't want to say a lot, but a handful that could potentially go to some next level. Any opportunity they can get, we want to see them go. But I got a question, man. So I was listening to you talk, and when you started to feel like you said you were getting older and injuries were coming, that's one thing. I'm 43, and I always prided myself on being a physical person, but as you get older, like you said, the injuries add up. How do you challenge yourself now? Do you still like to compete on some level? Or are you challenging yourself more with doing these promotions, etc.?
Yeah, I challenge myself also physically, even in some grappling, even some sparring, but not at the level where I'm getting prepared for a fight. But the physical fitness part for me always puts me in my mindset in a position to know that if I have to go, I can, and that feels good. To me, that feels like I'm living life the way I should be living life.
So, Ken, when I was an addict for a lot of years, an opiate addict, and when I got clean, I think I almost substituted addiction with fitness and trying to work out and trying to lift weights, etc. And that was just such a big thing for me, and still is. And for you, I know you mentioned that I think you said you struggle with addiction as well.
Yeah.
Did working out help you with that?
I've always worked out, and I've done cocaine. I've done everything, right? Nubane, you name. I've done a lot of stuff throughout my career. Obviously, a lot of it comes off of broken neck twice, broken lower back, replaced knee, replaced titanium ball on my shoulder, metal in my neck, metal in my lower back, and so yeah. So and you're talking about years and years and years, right? So yeah, so you start doing things, you get introduced to it by the doctor, and everybody's like, oh well, if the doctor says it's good, and that's the biggest drug dealers in the world, man, and it causes a lot of people to get caught on something and they don't even know it. So for me, it wasn't cocaine, it wasn't any of the ecstasy or any of the other stuff that was all recreational. Never got locked in on that stuff. That stuff was stuff that I did recreational or at a big party or something, and we go out and have some fun, and but I never got locked in on that. Never really abused that stuff when it comes to the multiple use of it. But it's abuse when you use it, period. So don't use it. but what I'm saying, when it's like party recreational, you're not like doing it every weekend or all the way through the week and stuff like that. But when it comes to opioids, dude, when you get stuck on that, that is the worst addiction in the world.
It's the devil.
I was locked in on that because I was still fighting, because I was still doing all those things. And the only way I could get through training was to be able to take the stuff, because of all the injuries that I had. And so I just had to, the last couple of years when I fought, I didn't do that. And of course, I didn't get into training like I normally used to, and I was losing fights. But that's when mentally I knew that I go, listen, if you've got to be on all of that stuff in order for you to go in there and win fights, is it really worth it? And so I made a decision to do what I did, and I lost a lot of fights. I still tried to keep fighting ways to figure it out. I couldn't. And so I started doing other things and started to get into a position to put myself in a place to where I could live life, look myself in the mirror, and be happy with who I was looking at.
Right. Man, well, congrats on overcoming all that, brother. I mean, there's a lot of us out here that look up to you, and that's real talk. Guys like you are what inspired Streetbeefs. So definitely, man, everybody owes you big for paving the way. Really.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I'm like I said, I'm glad that I was able to be around and be able to do the things that I did. But I truly believe that there's a bigger purpose for me, other than me doing what I did. That was all more stuff for me. I believe I've got a bigger picture coming to really help other people achieve goals that they want to achieve. And I think I'm in a position to be able to do that.
I agree with you, man. Good. Well, I'm excited to see your big announcement here in a couple of weeks. I think that's hopefully groundbreaking.
It will be.
Yeah. And with that, what advice would you offer fighters from Streetbeefs or any other regional fighters who are trying to make it professional? And I know that there's a number of obstacles trying to make it on a professional level, especially in the industry, but what kind of advice would you give them?
And this is going against the grain, but and be very careful about what I'm saying. Don't take it the wrong way, but you got to be known. And I've seen so many guys out there that will be 20-1, and I don't know who they are. But I'll see a guy that's 15-5, and I'll know who he is because he's talking, because he's being boisterous, because he's causing chaos. And not in a way to where he's destructing anything, but in a way where people are looking at saying, well, who is this guy? Why is he talking so much smack? You have to understand the world of entertainment. Fighting is the world of entertainment. I know people that can't put that together, but it is. And unless you are going to know somebody or to have get a hand up from somebody, most of the time, by the time you get to where you need to go, and you're going to be, and I don't have anything wrong with that because a lot of great guys do that. But if you want to get there sooner, make sure people know who you are. Make sure you speak out. Don't sit behind somebody and let somebody else do all the talking. Make sure you stand up and let people know who you are. Let them know you're good. Let them know you'll fight anybody. And make sure they're hearing you.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of Streetbeefs, right? And Scarface doesn't have to say this, but I'll certainly toot the horn of Streetbeefs itself, is that the platform allows fighters to have that.
Right.
We're talking about 2 million people being able to watch your fight. And so you show up as someone who's not known, but you put on a really good performance, and you're able to articulate yourself in a way that convinces people to watch you. You have a bigger chance of making it than someone who is trying to work kind of the underground and not really taking advantage of platforms like this. And so I really appreciate what Streetbeefs does, and the ways that they promote their fighters, the way that they give them a platform to really be known and seen.
Yeah, and it's and a little education too on. It's like, don't be disrespectful. Like, if you're attacking somebody or because you want somebody to know who you are, make sure when you do it that you're not disrespecting anything around them. Don't go to family, don't go to mothers, don't go to trainers or people or this, but go after the guy that you're actually wanting to fight or think that you can beat. Go after that guy, because all it takes is for you, if you're say you're in Streetbeefs, right? And you're 7-0, right? And people aren't, I mean, you're going to get that cult following that you got there that's following. There's a lot of people watching that, right? So if this person goes, I want to fight this guy, and I think I can beat him, make sure that the rest of the people that are in this cult following say the same thing you're saying to that other guy. Make sure that they're the ones helping you get that fight, right? That's how it works. You get enough chatter, you get enough people pushing in that direction, then somebody starts looking and they're going, well, hey, let's put that together. It's about money. It's about money.
Yeah, I mean, Ken, I tell people all the time. We've had people say, "Man, well, these guys fight at Street Beefs for free. What are they getting out of the deal?" Well, most amateur MMA fighters fight for free.
Right.
They fight for free, and the promoters sell popcorn and tickets and all of that stuff. Now, they do get the sanctioned record, but you look at Kimbo. Kimbo started out in a freaking backyard,
Yeah.
but when that YouTube fight trip that he took led him to getting opportunities that veteran MMA fighters weren't getting. And there was a lot of, I remember he was catching the heat. Well, Tito was one of them that was hating on Kimbo because Kimbo was getting these opportunities, but it was because his name got out there.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you're talking about, I think, is if you're entertaining or if you're captivating, you'll get the opportunity.
Yeah, that's bottom line is this. That's numbers, because numbers is money.
Yep. Sad but true, but very true.
It's just like this Jake Paul, right? I mean, I have nothing against the guy. The only thing that I ever said when he put something up was he was talking about hurting Ben Askren's, and I was like, "You're boxing." It's like, how are you going to hurt somebody in boxing? I mean, you could go out and beat somebody up. You could go in and put a hurting on him. But going out and saying you're going to don't bring his family and watch because you're going to put him in. I'm like, if that happens, right, that would be pretty amazing considering that Jake Paul is not a professional boxer. Now, it takes a professional boxer to be able to go into a ring and hurt somebody, because they know how to punch. They know how to put the combinations together. They know when they get somebody hurt, they know where to land the punches. Now, a professional boxer has a better ability of going out and truly hurting somebody than Jake Paul does, right? He knocked him out, but it's not hurting anybody. I mean, at least in my world, right? You can't go out and hurt somebody with pillows on your hand. You can knock them out. You can put a beating on them. You can make them wish they didn't step into the ring, but literally actually hurting somebody, it's a pretty far-fetched thing.
Absolutely. And I would also, how can people, so if people are trying to make the transition to Valor, right? They want to test themselves and they're in Street Beefs, they're building up their record. Now they got a fan base and they want to transition over. What is the process? How do they get involved?
Well, first they go to the Valor Bare Knuckle, valorbk.com, and we have a form that they fill out and they put their record down, where they come from, and we vet all of those. And we are right now, because of some things that we've got going on, we've got some pretty good announcements coming up that will give a lot of these people an opportunity to be seen, not at the actual fighting event, but actual at different types of events that we will be hosting a few times a year, to be able to get a look at people to see whether or not they have the ability to be able to fight in Valor Bare Knuckle. If they're that good, they need to come out to these different things when we make these announcements, and we will vet them. We will look at them. But their first play has to be, go to the website, valorbk.com, and fill out the form and let us know who you are.
Nice.
And then my last question to you is, will we ever see you on the Street Beefs yard watching?
Man, dude, what I was just saying is the whole time, man, I will always be a fighter. Somebody gets in my face and says something to me, they got to remember this. I'm not going to spend time training for 3 months. I'm going to punch him right there. Well, maybe not. I'll get sued. But I'll definitely be standing there waiting for them to do something, because I won't back down, right? I can make it my ass kicked too. But that's who I am, right? I'll never stop doing that. If the right fight comes up and somebody challenges me to fight, and it's within the realm of being something that is not going to put me in a situation where I'm going to embarrass myself, I will do it.
Well, I just would like to extend the invite for you to come hang out someday. So we'd love to have you visit. I would pay for your plane ticket, bring you out, and make an appearance sometime. You don't got to commit, but maybe we can talk further later.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're going to be the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to be looking for a lot of different talent. I think Streetbeefs has got a lot of young talent that can be definitely groomed for Valor, as long as they're willing to come in and fight bare knuckle. But I think most of these kids that step into Streetbeefs have fought many times bare knuckle already. so I don't think that would be a problem to get paid for it.
Absolutely.
And Streetbeefs has multiple branches too. So they have the branches on the East Coast and on the West Coast. Right. And so there's certainly a lot of talent that you can seek and see at one of the events.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, we appreciate your time, brother. We appreciate you for blessing us with your presence, but also with your wisdom. And certainly we look forward to more collaboration in the future, and hopefully see you at the Streetbeefs yard, where the fighters can see you, right? And then see an embodiment of a real fighter, someone who's overcome not only obstacles in their life, but obstacles in the ring, and then continue to show up, continue to get up, and continue to show up in their life. And so we appreciate you. Thanks again. Thank you. Thank you a lot. There you have it. The legend, Ken Shamrock, in dialogue with me, but also with the founder of Streetbeefs, Scarface, around a fighter's mentality, but also what it takes to overcome obstacles, not only in the ring or in the cage, but the obstacles and the hurdles in our own lives, so that we can reach greater heights, and so that we can inspire others to better their lives. So hopefully you are able to gain some insight, some wisdom from the discussion and the dialogue that you can apply to your own life. So if you like what you saw, like what you heard, please subscribe to the channel. You're more than welcome to donate to the platform so that we can continue to develop content that will be fruitful to you. And so, as always, we appreciate the support. Until next time, make sure you dig deep and fight for everything in your life.